Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode here on Dojo Live this Wednesday, September 28th. Now, I have to say, September 28th is a special day for me. It's the day that my daughter, my second daughter, Zoe, was born. So I'm going to shout out and say, happy birthday, Zoe. If you're a Dojo Live diehard fan, you've met her several times here on air with her interruptions during our working from home and COVID days. So she's 5. Happy birthday, Zoe. Mom, Dad, and Camila Joe. Love you. Now, to get on with the rest of the show, it's so my pleasure to introduce my co-host today, Jorge Hernandez. Hey, Jorge.
Hey,
Thanks for joining me as we're gonna get a little technical.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to go.
Thank you. And of course, the guest of honor, the reason why we're here today is Joel Kasr, Chief Scientist at Kaj Labs. Joel, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much, Kim. Nice to meet Jorge, and looking forward to chatting and having a good time on the show.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Thank you for joining us. Even technical issues aside, as you all can see, there's no video today, but that's all right. We're gonna roll with it. It's all about agile methodology, right? So perfect. Today's topic today is a really, really important one, and that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how that is impacting Web3 and Web2 design and what we can do about it. But before we get to that topic in depth, we'd love to get to know you a bit more, Joel. If you could please share your story, your passion, and sort of what's led up to Kaj Labs. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. My name is Joel Kasr. I'm a chief scientist and founder of Kaj Labs. At a very young age, I took a strong interest in computers, and although growing up we didn't have so much, at home, my mother somehow managed to afford a computer for me at the age of 4, and this was back then in the 90s when in my neighborhood only a few households had PCs and whatnot, but I was lucky to get on board and take up my passions as early as 4 or 5 years old.
All right, so that's young. Interested in computers from the age of 4 or 5.
Absolutely. My family, we're from East Africa. I immigrated to the U.S. and right after high school, attended college. I think I was a good student. Made the dean's list a few times, but I ended up focusing on startups. And mostly meditation. Around 2018, that's when I met one of my friends, and got the inspiration and the urge to start Kaj Labs at the end of 2017, early 2018.
All right. Well, why don't you please share with us a bit more about Kaj Labs and what is it that you're doing? You do the problem that you're solving.
Yes, absolutely. So Kaj Labs, it's a Seattle-based blockchain and AI research organization, we're trying to build. We're building a new network, a new blockchain network, Lithosphere. We're trying to solve a few bottlenecks hindering mainstream Web3 adoption, as well as introducing new technologies to the space. So we've been very elaborate in terms of being in terms of sharing as much content and information and research about the lithosphere project, and I look forward to getting into some details regarding this project.
Yeah, lithosphere. It's new to me. Jorge, have you heard of the lithosphere before?
No,
No?
I
All right,
hadn't had a chance.
say that one 10 times fast. Lithosphere. Perfect. Well, we look forward to it too as well, Joel.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, sorry to cut you off, Kim. It's simple. I mean, you could just say lethal. You don't have to pronounce the whole word. It's lethal. It's
All right.
much easier.
we're gonna take you up on that offer, and we're gonna refer to it as litho from now on, because lithosphere is a kind of a tongue twister here to say on air. Perfect. So we'll get into litho. I can't say it either way. We'll do that in just a moment. But before we do, let me go ahead and introduce the topic that you chose. And again, it's all about diversity, equity, and inclusion in Web3 and Web2. To answer the question of how can we design Web3 with diversity, inclusion, and accessibility or equity, right, in mind. So first of all, Joel, why did you choose this topic today? Why is it relevant for you and for the rest of the tech industry?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Kim. When we present this opportunity to appear on this show, we were actually gonna pick very technical topics, but Kasr Labs, myself, I mean, starting off Kasr Labs, I mean, going back to 2017, before starting Kasr Labs, I quickly noticed that there was a real lack of, there was real underrepresentation of, women or Black and Hispanics mostly in the tech sector, in the tech industry, specifically, in Silicon Valley. So right then, even before, registering the company and so forth, I decided that Kasr Labs would stand up for, would be the main driver, of change in driving more people from underrepresented communities to the tech sector. So we're very passionate about this cause, and we talk our work. Our team is very diverse, and the lithosphere community is so diverse, as you can tell from checking out the community. So we hope to see, the tech space as diverse as possible. It's for us, we think it's so important that all voices are heard, all ideas are valued. This is super important for us, regardless of race, gender, or national origin. So for the long term and for the short term, this is our mission, to increase the participants of underrepresented communities in the tech space. I mean, the record numbers, based on Crunchbase, you could easily see that women-led startups, minority-led startups are severely underfunded. So we're on a mission to change that.
All right. Well, what is that mission? Let's talk about how, let's say, what's the secret that you've discovered that's working at Kasr Labs that maybe other companies with this same type of goal might be able to emulate? Have you found maybe a secret process, or what's the process that you found that works well to increase DEI in your company and that we could utilize across tech?
Right. So Kasr Labs is my second startup. My other startup, Fleek, Fleek is now part of Lithosphere. But when I was starting Fleek, what other companies can I guess take clues from how we approach diversity, equity, and inclusion at Kasr Labs. We made it a point. We were hiring for management roles at Fleek, and I had to tell the hiring staff that there's a specific quota, or there's specific number there's a specific group of people, and basically we had to balance out our management team to make sure that it's as diverse as possible and each community is represented because we were building a community platform. Fleek was Fleek is meant to be a rideshare platform and it's going to service everyone. So if your company, your business is meant to serve people of all walks of life, I think your staff and your employees have to represent that as well. So we make it a mission on our part to make sure that the management teams that we put together are not one-sided or two-sided from one specific racial group or from one specific community, so to speak.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Before we move on, now you've mentioned that both Fleek, I believe is the name, and Kaj are part of Lithosphere. What is this? What is Lithosphere?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, I'm curious as to the Lithosphere. You've referenced this several times now, and I'd love for you to kind of tell us more. Like, what is that, and how does it work?
Absolutely. Great question. So, yeah, so Lithosphere aims to be a cross-chain layer one protocol. We intend for Lithosphere to be the go-to network, number one, for developers looking to build cross-chain native apps and services from day one. And then for users who are looking, for users who are looking to, transact cross-chain. I mean, to use, cross-chain applications. So the biggest bottleneck right now in Web3 is user experience. And Lithosphere aims to solve this issue by, number one, providing a protocol that basically unifies all the liquidity available from various protocols to provide a much better user experience. We're also improving, scalability issues, not just interoperability, but scalability, throughput, as well as security. I'm sure you've heard billions and billions have been lost from cross-chain breach hacks. So we're proposing Lithosphere. We're building Lithosphere to address all these issues.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty well. It's basically all the big challenges that blockchain is facing. So, on the matter of security, how do you see Litho being of aid in there? So, what kind of tech are you deploying that will help both developers and users?
Right. So since we're one of our lead project managers, David Yang, is a professor of computer science, and myself, one of the things we're most obsessed about it's security, and we read about every hack that happens in the space. So we're introducing two novel technologies. Number one, MDKM, the Myriad Distributed Key Management Framework. This will handle. This is basically a DKG library to handle cross-chain transaction or cross-chain functions within the network. But we're also introducing a new consensus algorithm, the LIN-BFT. And under the LIN-BFT consensus algorithm, developers and users, first of all, developers will easily tell that LIN-BFT is superior than to existing BFT algorithms out there like Tendermint, simply because Lean BFT introduces some new features to the space. So the first thing, Lean BFT enables basically mitigates selfish mining by enabling consensus per block. So in Bitcoin, blocks, transactions are approved once blocks are all added together. So with Lean BFT, developer can choose to can choose to enable consensus per block, so versus per group. So this way, people when it comes to selfish mining, this mitigates that. Then, in addition, touching on security, Lean BFT will enable rotation of block leaders or block proposers. So if you rotate block leaders or block proposers, this will help prevent denial of service attacks, distributed denial of service attacks, DDoS attacks to the network that have happened to networks like Solana. And the other thing, the most important aspect of Lean BFT, in my opinion, and Lean BFT is created by David Yang, by the way. So the most important thing, in my opinion, when it comes to Lean BFT, it's being able to choose dynamic node participants. Basically, this means that for each transaction that's getting verified, you could change which node verifies that transaction. So and nodes can be chosen dynamically versus being static. So on the security standpoint, I think we've taken a lot of consideration in building out and designing the network. In addition to this, we plan to implement AI to always monitor the network. This is research that's being conducted by David Yang at the moment. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, that's but it was a cool answer. That's quite interesting. I'll be sure to look into the algo.
Yeah, I'm glad you followed it, Jorge, because I'm like I caught nodes. No, I wanted to take it back a little bit. I think that's great. And kudos to you and David and the tech that you're building and how it works. But I think I would like to take it back to the heart of the conversation that you chose. And for me, I mean, my very, very high level low understanding of just Web 1, Web 2, Web 3 in general, right? Web 1 being information's available to me is the way I understand it. Web 2 is now I can interact with that information, kind of most of where we are right now. And then Web 3 being I can own it, right? And that's kind of where we're becoming. So you chose to answer the question of how we can design this future, this Web3 with diversity, inclusion, accessibility in mind. With what you're creating, there's a higher level of security, which you explained quite well. But what else? Like what are we doing and how can we make sure that DEI is a part of this Web3 future?
Yeah, great question, Kim. I think Web 1, in my opinion, Web 1 and Web 2 builders focus mostly on getting rich, building fast, deploying staff. But in my opinion, I really believe deep down that the internet was meant to work like Web 3, right? So Web 2 wasn't Web 2, Web 1. We were never supposed to even have any of that. So I think Web 3 is how things are really supposed to work. But to go back to your question, how do we avoid mistakes from Web 1 and Web 2 phases? So number one, what I've noticed, just before I answer the question, what I've noticed right away in the Web 3 space, already the Web 3 space is way more diverse, I guess, than the traditional tech space. And it's very collaborative. And since by nature, by design, blockchain, it's trustless, permissionless. There's not a lot of gatekeepers. So by design, Web3 is open, and it's it's a place where anyone can come play, build, make money, do anything you want. There are no gatekeepers here. So number one, that's a big difference, and that will make it easy to make the space inclusive, to make the space more inviting for everyone. But
yeah, it kind
I
of
think,
reminds me of the theme from yesterday's show, where we were talking about building AI for the people by the people, and Rudrejeb's hypothesis is when there's opportunity, the diversity, the equity, the inclusion, it just kind of naturally happens. And so in that sense, I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
yeah, absolutely, I agree. I think by its nature, Web3, it's way more open. But in terms of building products, our teams building Web3, companies, projects, building the next generation of the internet, they have to be cognizant of of not making the same mistakes, and we have to make sure our teams are diverse. We have to be inclusive when we're designing NFT projects, include those skin tones, and really to try to be as inclusive as possible in this next generation of the internet. I think that's more fun when everyone is part of it.
For sure, for sure. You gave a couple examples right now, just for example, like a more wider variety of skin tones on NFTs and things. What other ways are you seeing an increase in inclusivity and diversity in the
Oh
web
yes,
space?
yes, good question. So, of course, I mean every project has to survive by by having good funding. So, it starts with the money. So, funding minority or underrepresented founders and teams. I think that's where it starts actually. And then, of course, on the other side, underrepresented communities. I know last week we had a Black Blockchain Summit. I know I missed it, but when we have these summits, I think we can have workshops where we could invite high schoolers, middle schoolers to play with the technology and try out things, and really be active in these underrepresented communities. So we can drive diversity in Web3 and overall in tech space.
All right. Well, thank you. We're actually coming to the kind of final few minutes of the show. I'd like to take it back to kind of Kaj Labs. You mentioned how you yourselves were very intent, as particularly starting with your hiring process and making sure that your team and the people that make up your team are as diverse as possible. But beyond that diversity that we build, how have you been able to maybe make your company also inclusive, right? Diversity is there, but if we still don't feel part of something, right, it doesn't matter how diverse we are if there's not this full-on inclusion or the equity, the accessibility component. So how are you building that kind of culture within your company?
Yes, absolutely. So great question. So Kai's Labs, as far as our efforts, in 2020 we pledged 50 million over 10 years to nonprofits, addressing social justice and equity in the U.S. So every year we reach out and connect with these nonprofits, and we think as providing resources to organizations doing the actual work in the community, it's more productive than us ourselves going out in the community. But we'll definitely be in the community, in spreading awareness, and but specifically when it pertains to Kaj Labs, we're always emphasizing uh, we're always emphasizing, hiring diverse staff, but also, building products that work for everyone, for all people, um, in making lithosphere as accessible as possible, as well as any projects that will be launched on lithosphere.
Nice. So that's taking different types of impairments in mind, or something maybe that's visual, auditory. What does that look like?
Yes, absolutely. Both. Any any games, or really any products that we're building. We're always building with accessibility in mind and inclusion in mind. So from basically to answer your question, we're doing our part by designing inclusive products, hiring diverse teams, and funding nonprofits that are doing the actual work in the community, addressing social justice and equity all around the world.
That's beautiful. Thank you. As now you've done this twice, I guess, building companies. What words of wisdom would you leave for other people, other leaders, maybe starting with people who might be hoping to step out and create something of their own? Any words of wisdom about what has worked well for you, and maybe something that you did that you probably shouldn't have, and maybe would sort of counsel someone not to walk in those footsteps?
Oh yes, yes. Yeah. So the last word. Okay, I think. Well, first I'd like to say, lithosphere. We do have a lithosphere diplomat program, and this program is open to everyone to apply. And if you want to work on anything within lithosphere, you're more than welcome to join the diplomat or ambassador program. But to go back to your question, I think what I'd do different, or what I would advise any future founder or any future Web3 builder is to, network more, I guess, and, be open-minded. But definitely, I think, entrepreneurship is hard regardless of race, gender. So
Yeah.
You have to show up. Absolutely.
Network. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Joel, for your time today, sharing your wisdom, sharing about Kosh Labs and Lithosphere with us, as well as the ever important place for diversity, equity, and inclusion within our companies, and of course within the web as we build out this future for everyone. Please stick around just a minute as we go off air. And thank you, Jorge, as well, for joining me today. As we go off air, you're welcome. I just wanted to mention tomorrow's upcoming show. We do have a final show of the week, again, at 10 a.m. Pacific. We'll be speaking with Stephanie Cox, who is the CEO at Lumavate. She'll be talking about mobile messaging and how it's the untapped marketing channel that drives incredible results. So don't miss it right here on Dojo Live. Thank you, and goodbye for now.